Hi, I'm Andy Selman, the CEO of One Sherpa. You know, the question I ask myself often is, where's the money gone? And when it comes to wealth, that's a key question. We're going to go on a journey with my friend George, who probably was just a little like you. And I'm going to show you how he got stuck on his journey. So when we find George, right now, George is reasonably happy because he's been out and he's bought a few things and managed to get a little ahead in life. Now the things he bought, I'm going to call capital. Now that might be a term you've not heard before, but the way we see it, capital is the things that you have. So George had been out and he bought himself quite a nice house, and he had also gone and bought himself a nice car to drive around in. So everything was going pretty well for George. The only thing was that when he went to buy the capital, of course he didn't have all the money, probably just like you and I. And so what he did was, he was pretty smart. He went along to the bank and he said, look, can I borrow a bit of money to buy my capital? And they went, yeah, that's okay, so long as you put some money in as well. And he said, well look, why don't we go 50-50 on this? And the piece that he put in we'll call equity, and the piece that the bank put in we'll call debt. And things were going along fairly well for George. He was happy, had a few things, life seemed to be going okay, until one day he had a bright idea. And he went, you know, I'm really not getting ahead too well. So as a result, he thought, what I need to do is buy some more capital. And he thought, what I really need is an investment property. So he went out and said, so how can I get myself an investment property? And some bright spark said to him, well, why don't you just access the equity in your home? You know, you've got that, why don't you just access that and buy some more capital? So he thought, that's a great idea. And he went out and he bought some investment capital. And how did he pay for that? Well, another word for accessing the equity in your home is taking on more debt, because he didn't have any money. He just borrowed more from the bank. So now he had some capital, and all he had done was have some more debt. So one of the things that George was hoping was that all of this capital would go up in value. Because if it went up in value, everybody would look at him and go, wow, you are really wealthy. And of course, when capital goes up, this is commonly known as growth. But what is not commonly known is this doesn't produce any cash. So no matter how much this goes up, you don't actually get any cash unless you sell it. One of the other things that many of you would now know is it can go down in value too. And we're seeing right now some of these capital prices just fall. And if they fall, the debt is still there. So George was doing this, but what he was really looking for, and what he thought he was going to get, was some more income. Because when George set out to be wealthy, what he was really looking for was money. And what is often known here is that we call this yield. So on capital you can either have growth or yield, and the one thing about yield is it produces cash. So this is what George was really looking for. He kind of thought he was going to get it from growth, but at the heart of it he wanted more income. Now George had a problem, because with all of this debt that he had taken on board, it was actually coming off his income. He never quite realised what a drain this debt was going to be. for him. And so maybe his investment property was going up in value, but he never had any more money. He kept on saying, where's the money gone? And so as a result of all of this, George, after being quite happy, was very frustrated. Because he thought he was getting wealthy, it looked as though he was getting wealthy, but he was left saying, where's the money gone? It got so bad that he wanted to tear his hair out. So he found himself that it was a myth that if his capital went up in value, he would be wealthy. He, in the end, even thought that all he was doing was spending all of his life renting this stuff from the bank, because the debt that he had taken on to get this growth wasn't producing him the income that he had always hoped for. So why don't you join us tomorrow, and we're going to take you through and show you how George could have done it different. What were the steps that George should have taken? What were the things that he should have thought about so that he didn't get himself in this mess?